Hi. I wasn't going to make a video at all, but I had just one of those things when you sort of like, you get an idea and you think, I really should make that video now, because if I don't, I won't do it. So I'm going to try and do a quick video on this subject, and we'll just see how we go. It's just a little one, and basically it's just that I think it's been brewing for a while. I've been thinking about it a while, and it's like, I'm presuming this is a covert narcissism thing, but it could be overt narcissism as well. But all of my problems are with covert narcissistic types, so I'm coming from there. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was the overt narcissism, and maybe even borderline personality disorder as well. So it's just this, it's like, have you noticed how all the stuff that you by rights should be complaining about, they get in there and complain about it first? Like, if there's one thing I remember my covert narc dad saying to me every chance he got, and he was still saying it one way or another after my mother died, his wife, they were still married when she died. It's not fair, he would tell me. The number of times I heard that, and it would always be directed at me. Now there are other people in the family, you know. I don't know. I'm not the sort of person that you need to talk to like that. If the only time that anybody who really knows me would use the words, "you're not being fair," would be in an argument, probably not even between us, about us, me and the person, about reasoning an argument. So let's say we were talking about transgender issues and I wasn't getting it. Like, I wasn't getting it that some people are born basically as a woman in a man's body, and I was determined that it isn't that. It's just the way they just think they're a woman, right? And somebody could say to me, right, and they would have a point, but you're not being fair because you don't know. You don't know what it's like. How can you? It's not fair. And that would be an argument. They'd be wrestling with me, my argument, and saying, "That's it. That's when you need to tell me I'm not being fair. That's it." Like, but it's very, very. It's not. I don't want to be arrogant and make out it's impossible that I am ever unfair. But I've got to tell you, and I think you're going to relate to this, I'm not a kind of people that know me, really, the word unfair is not one of the first 4 words that used to describe me. You know? I actually think it's quite hard to exercise being unfair when you've been scapegoated all your life, because the opportunity to be unfair is kind of taken away from you. I mean, one of the big problems I have in my relationships with women, like romantic relationships, is I think women get frustrated that I won't just be a man and put my foot down about things and be unfair. Because as much as we should have an equalitarian society, there are times when women, I find, want men to be what we call, in a prehistoric, stupid way, they want men to be strong, which annoys me, because I don't think men being strong is men treating women badly. I think men being strong is men enduring. I think men being strong is a withholding of aggression, right? But I don't know if it's the women I'm ending up with, or if, or it's my misunderstanding of the situation. But I've found that I frustrate women because, and maybe other reasons I don't understand, but bearing in mind I'm not an idiot, okay? You only have to watch my other videos to establish that. I'm not saying I'm superior, I'm just saying I'm not lacking in self-awareness is not, again, my first flaw, and I work very hard to be self-aware. How successful I am or not is not for me to judge, but I certainly work hard at it. What I'm trying to say is sometimes people, men or women, just want you to be yourself. And being yourself sometimes means not being fair all the time. Well, I find it very hard to be myself. I don't think I'm alone in that. And to be fair, I'm not putting all of that fault at women there. I'm not saying women are evil, they ask men this and they ask men that. I can't be bothered with that. It's just an experience I've had, right? Please understand, I'm fully conscious of the fact men can be infuriating, they can be ridiculous, they can be delusional, they can be demanding, and most of all, they can be thoughtless. But we try. The good ones of us try. So please understand, the shopping list on the man's side isn't like only 2 or 3 long. It's a big deal. But if there's one thing that I find extraordinary, it's patience, and trying to be fair can drive a woman nuts. I don't know why. Like I say, it could be the women that I'm ending up with. I don't know. Women, please write underneath and say, actually, you know what? I can see why a woman wouldn't want to be with you, because, you know, you're just like a kind of beta male, you know, I don't know, you just finish the sentence for me. All I know is real strength, and I think, and please, I have a lot of admiration for women and female strength, a lot. I think women are tougher, okay? And sometimes I think in a scary way, you know. I love that line from Sin City when the guy says something about something really bad happens and a woman cries for about 30 or 40 seconds, but then it's like it's done. And she's like a hard ass again. If you've seen the film, you'll know the bit I mean. Dames, he says something like that. Mickey Rourke says it. Dame, the funny thing about dames, they cry for 30 seconds and then it's all over. You know, and it's just like when I think the sadness for men is we have to, it's like that Beatles song, we have to carry a load a long time, and it can get in the way. Sometimes it's not pragmatic. Sometimes men aren't pragmatic enough, which is so strange when you think that we're meant to be the hunter-gatherer builder types and women are meant to be the homemakers. But one thing that I've learned is women are realistic on the whole. Not always, but you know, generally they're realistic. And men take a long time to grow up. That's what I found. That's what's me too. But when you do grow up, you're a man. You're a boy a long time in this life, I think, if you're male. But when you do grow up, you are a man and you do get it. And I'm getting off the point massively. But anyway, so I just wanted to make that distinction. I have no idea how I got into all that. That is nuts. That's going to cause some reactions. Hopefully not. I mean, you know, it's not that crazy. It's not fair, said my father. A lot. Another one that used to come up was, right, now you're, remember I'm a child? Well, this is my time. Like if I needed him to do something, like sign my homework book or something like that, you know, like there were times when as a kid, you've got to ask your father for something. I tried not to ask my dad for anything, but you got to sometimes. And whatever he found a way. This is, I think, do you know what? I think that's the point. It's not really there's a good example here or something, but if it's just like that sentence I said once and made a video about. They live to be inconvenienced by you. They find a way to have their complaint at you. They find a way to have their moan at you. That's what's. I've really got to go back and revisit that. I've got to make a series based on they live to be inconvenienced by you, because I just didn't get it. I had a pretty good stab at it, but if I had like 10 commandments of dealing with a covert narc, they live to be inconvenienced by you would be so near the top. It might even have to be number one. It's almost like that nails my experience of it. It's like it doesn't matter how hard you try, how far you run, how much you tidy up, how much you deploy yourself. When your job is to be the person they find fault with, you're not going to win. And I really found that out from looking after my mum. And I'm not bothering anybody. And it was very, very hard, as you all know if you've watched other videos of mine. And like, and when all that came to a head, I think my dad was wriggling on the hook, trying to find a way to say, look, this isn't fair. Your behaviour is just not acceptable. You can't do this to me. Another one was, as the years went by, and I realised how badly I was being treated, and how badly my mum was being treated, more to the point. Like nobody. The very, very infrequent visits, and my brother using my mum's garage to work on his car, and not really, and I would ask him, will you just like get some flowers now and again? He wouldn't come and see her, and I found that really insulting, that he felt he could come and use the property, and just fuck off afterwards. I wouldn't even know he was there. Sometimes I'd just look out the window and see he was there. I just thought it was rude to me and my mum, and just, outrageous, really. He wouldn't even come and say hello, And that grew into resentment and anger. And eventually I realised that my family weren't my family. They were like prison wardens. And they'd imprisoned me. And they'd put me in this situation. And this was my role. It wasn't just they needed someone to look after their mother. It was they had me where they'd always wanted me. It sounds paranoid, doesn't it? How can I put this? It's so difficult because I've had arguments with a really close friend of mine about this. At one point, I think he told me I was being unfair. I've had arguments with a really good friend of mine about this, and it's so... When I posit the idea, or someone posits the idea that somebody say, like I said to my friend once, I don't know how I said it, but I said they want me to die. They would be happier if I would just die. Now, and he got very angry, and he said that I was over dramatising the situation. It's possible, but I was trying to make a very specific point. What I meant was, I knew that I think it was after my mother had died, and now I was still here in the house, and my family wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted me to have looked after my mother on very little money, for all those years, not do anything, not have any responsibility, to eat up 7 years of my life, in which I was effectively imprisoned here as a full-time carer. It was much worse towards the latter half than the first half, I admit, but the last half was really, really tough, okay? Proper tough. I mean, as bad as you dare imagine, okay? Sometimes, like at one point, hardly any sleep for months and months and months, like 4 or 5 hours sleep a night for months and months and months. Getting up, toileting my mother, and all this. In the middle of the night, over and over, you gotta try and understand it. I was basically like running a nursing home with one person, and I was one member of staff and one person. That's where it goes, and it does. You're not really meant to go through that, It's going to happen more and more, sadly, as we extend the lifespans of people, but not their health, What my family wanted is they wanted me to do all that work, right? And at the end of it, take the house and divide the house between us all individually. All right, that's what they wanted to happen. But my health was so badly damaged, and that I just wasn't going to engage in that. I mean, I was kind of like, well, if you're going to be like that, you're going to have to come and take it. I mean, that was kind of my attitude. It wasn't like I wasn't being a dick. I was just destroyed. I wasn't even well enough to get the house ready for sale or anything like that. You know what I mean? So they found that to be me being difficult and intractable, when actually I just couldn't cope. I just couldn't cope. I was broken, completely broken. There was nothing left. I was over the line, over broken, beyond broken. I mean, I've been dwelling in a very damaged state for a good few years, and I'm only really coming together now. I'm on medication. That's been a whole trial in itself. But the first thing that's happened out of me taking medication is that I have slept and slept and slept. The medication has allowed me to be selfish and to recuperate. So, here we are. I realise my family aren't my family. They're my prison warders. When I come up with these arguments, these models, like I try to talk to my friend about, when I realised they had no compassion for me, they didn't care what happened to me. They didn't care that I was emotionally and physically destroyed. They didn't care. What they wanted was what was right for them. When I realised that, I realised I was an obstacle, because ethically and morally and probably even legally, they couldn't just get me out of here. They could have evicted me, but it was going to be trickier than that. Because if there's one thing a narcissistic array and a narcissistic person doesn't want, they don't want to be exposed. It's interesting. Somebody said something to me so wise the other day, and I asked her if I could reproduce it. And she said, "Don't you understand," she said, she was talking about a different situation, "that you and such a person are the most powerless people in that situation, and there's nothing you can do about it, and that's why you're being manipulated, because that's how manipulation works. Manipulation isn't about what should happen or what could happen, it just sounds so obvious now, but she really hit it." And she was like, manipulation happens when there's a powerless person. Well, I thought I was powerless in this situation, even though I'd done the right thing. It turns out you're not always as powerless. You know what? You're pretty powerless. The scapegoat is pretty powerless, but you're not always completely powerless if you've done the right thing. Don't get me wrong. I live I am immersed in a network of lies. There are people in this street who have been lied to about me. People in this street who saw the ambulances come and go at 3, 5 in the morning. Who saw me put my mum in taxis to take her to medical appointments. People who saw me become sick and thin and pale, and then wouldn't see me for days on end. They know I went through hell. Neighbours that when I went on holiday and I left a note with them saying, look, there's care in place. I've got people popping in to make sure my mum's all right. 4 times a day. I'm going away for 2 days to see my best friend who's just over from another country, right? This happened infrequently, like once or twice a year. But here are phone numbers of my family if there's an emergency, right? Neighbours who, when something did go wrong on one occasion, rang that number, and when they got my brother, and my brother tried to get out of it, right? They said, look, Paul's on like having a break. Get your ass down here. Because he said to them, well, can't you get him to do it? Can't you get him to come back? And they said, get your ass down here. Neighbours who have done all this now won't speak to me. People who knew what I went through have been lied to and twisted and had their heads turned. This is my life. It's not fair. But the one thing the narcissist and the narcissistic family, and I'm making a distinction there between the sociopathic narcissist who's at the head of the family and then the narcissistic array that is your immediate family, they don't have to see it from your point of view. Think about that for a second. They don't have to. I'm not like that. I try very hard to be objective. I'm sure I fail sometimes, but I'm pretty... For me, it's like a kind of critical thinking as a way of life, you know? I know if I'm not being objective, I'm in danger of being ignorant. And I don't want to be ignorant. I don't want to be accused of being ignorant. But you know what? I'm accused of all sorts of things all of the time. And I've just got to accept it. I can't change it. I can't fix it. I can't make it better. I haven't got the power. I'm fairly powerless. But the limits of my powerlessness came into play when it came to them trying to oust me out of this house, which they didn't even really try to do. And that's a whole other ending to that story that's going to be told another time, probably on another channel, and you're going to know all about it. But all I'm going to say for now is what I found amazing. This is the point of my story, and I'm going to wind this up in a minute and get this posted. So when my brother was turning up and, dicking around with his car in the garage while I was here, basically on 24/7 watch all the time for years, apart from those very few occasions, those odd weekends when I'd get away when my friend was over, and sometimes I could only go because my mum ended up in hospital for a little while. But I would try and see my best friend if I could. I used to go to a pub round the corner, literally round the corner, with my mum's phone would be right in front of her, and she could just pick it up, press the redial button, it would ring my mobile. I'd be in the pub round the corner, and I would come back anyway. When my friend went out for a cigarette, I'd come back. I would go to the pub once or twice a week. That would be this, and that was it, Anyway, so where's my brother? I slowly realised they're not my family. My sister is married. My brother wasn't married then. And I slowly realised that when the day came that my mum died, and I might meet somebody one day later on, and I might get married, I realised I didn't want any of them at the wedding. I realised that when this was over, I was going to get as far away from these people as I could, and I wasn't going to be inviting them to any weddings or anything that ever happened to me, ever again. And that was a hard, sobering realisation that took me a long time to come to. My mum died in April 2013. And my brother got married within months, and I wasn't invited to the wedding. They get you before you get them. I'm gonna leave it there because I've not really done a very good job, and I might make another video about this. Did you hear what did you get that? I was treated like I was the problem. We don't want Paul at the wedding. Nah, I'm gonna stop there. See you, man.